Right now we got our good buddy John Dillon on the line, and I hope this attorney's got some good news for us. How you doing, bud?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Not bad. What's new? Is it good? Is it good?
Well, yeah, actually I have a bit of good news. It's something that's been around for a little while, but I haven't had a chance to talk about it with you guys. But on January 3rd, Congressman Richard Hudson introduced H.R. 38, which is the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2017. Have you guys heard about this?
Yes.
Yep.
But please
No,
elaborate.
not the details.
I haven't heard.
Well, basically, he's introducing this new bill in Congress, and which would create a national law that would make each state acknowledge the concealed carry permits of every other state. So right now, there's about 22 states that recognize other states' permits, or they just allow people to carry constitutionally based off of the Constitution. You're allowed to carry either openly or concealed. And that number's in around 22 states. So if I have a permit in one state, like Nevada, Arizona might allow that permit in their state and acknowledge that. And there's about 10 states that just do not acknowledge other states' concealed carry permits. We, of course, are in one of those states. California doesn't recognize a permit from any other state in the country. So the only way you can carry concealed in this state is if you have a concealed carry permit issued by the state of California. Now, this new law would allow people who had concealed carry permits to have their CCW recognized within the state of California and other states which historically have not allowed CCWs. So it's a pretty interesting new bill, and if it gets passed, it will open up gun rights all over the country a lot better. And we're talking about people that go through extensive checks and background checks and testing and training to get these permits, and so they've all proven that they're good law-abiding citizens. And I think there's been a couple studies that state that these CCW holders are some of the best people when it comes to obeying the law, and they're really strict with all that. So I think it's a good thing. I don't think there's any problem with recognizing another state's CCW permits, and in fact, it gets rid of a lot of the threat of if you do have a CCW and you are traveling throughout the country, going from state to state, just by crossing a border, you could technically become a felon by carrying a loaded concealed firearm. So
well, that brings up a good question, John. So this bill, is there any language in there that talks about just for visiting? So I have a Virginia concealed weapons permit, and now I'm in California. Is it just while I'm visiting California, or I have a Virginia concealed weapons permit and I moved to California permanently? Is it still recognized? Because like your driver's license is good all over the country. However, most states are, okay, if you're a resident here, you have 30, 60, 90 days to get our driver's license.
Right.
So is it going to be the same way with that, or is there any expiration date? Is it temporary?
I'm not sure about having to update it. Let's say if you came from Virginia to California, if you have a certain amount of days to get a new permit issued by California. As far as I know, the law authorizes, if you have just a state-issued CCW, the other states will recognize it. And that was something that was amended in the bill originally when they first put it out there. A lot of people, especially people in California, recognize that, this is great for other people, but it's not going to help in states where they do not issue CCWs. So the workaround, in the sense, is that it seems to recognize out-of-state permits.
Gotcha. And hey, John, this is Lance. So where is it at as far as its progression? Is it out of committee yet, going into committee? Where are we at here?
Yeah, so right now, let's see, I just had that up. Right now, it has been referred to the Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security and Investigations. The next step, I believe, is it goes to the House to see to get voted on, and then after that we have the Senate, and then goes to the President.
Right. Hey, John, let me ask you a question. I'm just curious. I mean, if you let's go with Hollywood's suggestion. He's coming from wherever other than the state of California, and he's coming here to visit, and then he decides to stay. Either visiting or staying from a lawyer's advice point of view, would it not be a good idea to go to your local police and tell them, hey, I'm in town, I have a carry concealed, I'm going to be here 6 months, or should you just not bother?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You know, obviously, in a perfect world, you like to think that, hey, I'm a good citizen, law-abiding. Let me just go on down and let my law enforcement know just to make sure. But it might be introducing a little more trouble than is needed, especially if the law doesn't require that you notify law enforcement.
Gotcha. It just, you know, I mean, with the climate, I agree with that, but I'm sure if the climate was better, I would think that the law enforcement would be a lot happier knowing that somebody's coming in a positive attitude, saying, hey, I'm in your town, I do carry, so.
And, you know, like I said, in a perfect world, that would be ideal, and I always recommend that if, you know, you are getting pulled over by a police officer,
let them know.
You know, let them know, not, hey, I have a gun. That's not the right way to let them know, but let them know that, oh, you know, I am a licensed CCW holder. Currently, I do have a firearm in my possession.
What about if you give him your driver's license and your CCW at the same time? Don't say anything, because then when he's going to say, oh, what's it? Oh, you're a carrot. You could let him kind of do the conversation first. I don't know. We can argue.
That's also another strategy that a lot of people recommend and employ, you know. It's basically you want to open up communication. Everything that I've ever seen where you're very upfront, calm, and you're letting them know, it's very rare that you get some negative reactions.
See, Joe, I told you, hammer down and burning rubber isn't the answer. Hey, Michael had a question he was throwing in there.
Hey, John. So the most common question I get, and you kind of touched on it. I know originally the bill didn't seem to grant, like if you're a California resident and you get a Utah permit, which you can get a Utah permit, Arizona. There's a number of different states that'll issue permits. If you have a Utah permit and you're a resident of California, at first it didn't look like the law would apply to you, but I believe they have changed that. Does it sound like the text of the law now will will force California to honor out-of-state CCWs for residents of California?
It does seem like they're going to recognize out-of-state CCWs if you're if you have a non-resident CCW permit. So that is good. Whether that stays in there or if it gets amended, I don't know. But in the meantime, it does seem that way.
And one point I just want to make real quick is that California, now we are technically a May issue state. We have that good cause thing, but really the majority of sheriffs in California issue. So our problem here in San Diego is really our sheriff. So just wanted to clarify that our problem is not really California. It's Sheriff Gore.
And I might mention something else too, though. For some reason, they passed along California, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but that if you are a concealed carrier in California, that you can't be within 1,000 feet of a school.
Yeah, so concealed carry when it comes to school zones is a very touchy subject, and you definitely, if you're going to be going to pick up your kids or anything like that, definitely do not have, even if you have a CCW, do not carry your firearm with you.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There are exceptions. If you're living in certain areas, they exempt you being able to go to and from your house and stuff like that. But you do have to really pay attention to where you are in California if you are a CCW holder, because you could very easily be in an area where you are not supposed to have a gun.
Yeah, here are these super responsible people that are concealed carry folks are just outlawed from. For me personally, they should be able to go to a school. That's where we want them to be.
Well, yeah,
for backup.
Well, but, and here's another reason to pay attention to local politics. It's actually the school board decides. How they want to
school board.
Their school board decides. So if they can decide, hey, look, if you have a CCW, law-abiding citizen issued, etc., then you're okay to come on campus. They can actually make that decision. So that's another reason to pay attention to these local, boards and elected officials, because man, they're the ones that are really impacting your life every day. But I know there are a couple of school boards right here in San Diego who've basically said, look, if you have a CCW, you're good to go. You're okay to be on campus.
Oh wow,
interesting.
But it is a great caveat to add, if this does get passed, don't think, I'm going to get my Arizona and I'm good. You have to, even if you don't have a California concealed, you get it from Arizona, Utah, wherever, you really need to do your due diligence, do your homework, contact, Dillon Gatsky, do the research you got to do to make sure you're following it the California way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and that's the thing I definitely want to touch on is with all this, if this Reciprocity Act passes, yes, they will acknowledge that you have a CCW and that permit is valid, but you will have to know the laws of any state you go into and follow those concealed carry laws. So, if you're coming from Arizona, Nevada, and you then go into California, you got to obey California's CCW laws and California's gun laws. You don't get to adopt your home state's laws when it comes to carrying.
And John, if someone goes to your website, can they sign up for a newsletter or something like that? Do you have a way of kind of updating people?
Yeah, I do. I have a blog and a news posting page on my website, and they can sign up to get on the subscription, get any updates on any articles I'm coming out with. Currently, I'll be publishing a new one regarding storage laws in California when it comes to loaded firearms. So that'll be a nice read, and there's some information that I think a lot of people will be surprised about.
And the website's cafirearmslaw.com.
cafirearmslaw.com, yes.
And John, what do you think about a legal challenge against this? Do you think this will fly through? It's on solid ground, or do you think this is going to be...
Well, again, we're going to be going into the subject area of, the federal government versus states' rights. And like I've said many times before, we have a representative body that has made it clear that they're going to fight a lot of our new administration's policies. So whether or not they do, I don't know. But I seriously doubt it'll just be a clean, hey, bill passed, everyone's good, and everyone's accepting of it. Even if that is the case, everyone still has to remember the law, learn the law. So, in the first couple months, at the very least, of having these laws passed, law enforcement may not know all the information. So you're still in kind of that kind of gray, sketchy area of, hey, if you're going to start carrying concealed, in another state from your permit, even though you're legal, there may be some confusion when it comes to law enforcement.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a break. By the way, folks, go to Facebook, like us, support our show.
That's right.
Sports Radio.
On Facebook.
Yeah, so make sure you have that happen. And any legal questions you might have, gun-related, you can always give John a call at 760-431-9512 or go to
9501.
Oh, 9501. Oh.
Yes.
My secretary.
431-9501.
See, my secretary messed up. Lance.
Lousy secretary.
Yeah.
No worries.
So cafirearmslaw.com, cafirearmslaw.com. John will be more than happy to help you out, and make sure you tell him you heard it right here on Gun Sports Radio. All right, bud. Hey, good chatting with you. If you want to stay on the line and listen, or are you cutting the lawn?
I got to go today.
Of course you do.
You guys.
Honeydews. Go get him, buddy.
All right, good having you.
Alrighty.
All right, folks, we're going to take a small break. When we come back, a whole lot more on Gun Sports Radio, KCBQ, AM1170, The Answer.
Without someone doing something about it, it's not going to get any better.